Hello, everyone. So I'm just here to kind of talk to you about the cheat sheet that we're going to use for the algebra final. So one thing is that it is supposed to be one full sheet, front and back, front and back. And when I mean like full sheet, that means like by like 8 by 11 page. So kind of like your regular notebook pager. So some recommendations that I do recommend putting on there. Some recommendations is that I would recommend, first of all, writing small, but legible. So make sure it's not too small where you cannot read it, but make sure you have to still read it. So another thing that I would recommend is have a selection, have stuff organized by sections. Stuff organized by section slash topic slash topic. Another thing is have its own section for formulas. So have a section for a formula. Have a section for formulas. Another thing too about this topic thing is highlight them. So you want to highlight them just to mark the important details about them so that they're easy to see, so you have to go to them as fast as you can. And another major thing that you guys might not really focus on is focus on topics that you struggle with. So if you are struggling with a certain topic, focus on that first. That's the very first thing you want to pay attention to. And last but not least, have practice problems. Have examples. Have examples. This is very, very important. So if you just write down like certain topics and all that, sometimes you do not understand examples. So write down examples so you can understand. Remember, you have the front and back to use. It's an all fair game. Use it all. Okay, use it as much as possible, but make sure it is legible. Okay, so another major thing that I want you guys to focus on is that these are the formulas. So I would expect you guys to write this down somewhere on your very beginning, say formulas to know. So the very first thing that we want to talk about is growth and decay. So back out again, growth and decay. So there's really two different formulas that we have to know. I'm going to break down the first one, which is growth. So the growth formula is as so: f of x equals a 1 plus r n to the x power. So just break down what these mean. A is pretty much means the starting amount, the initial amount, starting amount. R is the rate. So usually means for like percentage or something like that. It will usually give you a percentage, but we need to make sure it's in decimal form. And x is just time. X is time. Another really important thing that I realized is that this whole thing, the whole thing in parentheses, is also known as the growth factor. Growth factor. So if they give you the growth factor, you do not have to do anything with it. You just plug this in for this part right here. This is known as the growth factor. So another one that we want to talk about is decay. Decay is really similar. There's only one really big difference. of course, it's f of x, but instead of it adding r, we are subtracting r. So it's f of x equals a, 1 minus r to the x power. Same things for the meanings. A is the starting amount, r is the rate in a decimal form, and x is time. Another thing that I want to talk about, another thing that is very important, is the compound interest. Formula. Compound interest formula goes as P, the amount given, equals the principal, and that would be timesing 1 plus r over n, and times n times t. So kind of like talk about this. P is just the starting amount. It means principal. So, but it is the starting amount. It's a fancy word. Starting amount. R is the same thing. It's the rate in a decimal form. Or the percentage, where you want to say, but it needs to be in decimal form. N is the number of times per year. Number per year. It happens. So this means like quarterly, so on and so forth. Quarterly, which just means 4. And then T, it's time. And this is usually in years. So those are breaking down everything that we need to know. Another formula that is more recent that we need to know is finding the vertex. So finding vertex in standard form. Standard form. So what I mean by standard form, it looks something like this. A x squared plus bx plus c. Remember, that is standard form to us. So to find the first vertex, remember you need to find x equals negative b over 2a. That will give you the x value of the vertex. And with that being said, the way to find the y is that you have to plug x, the x value, into the problem. So how we would say that is plug in the negative b over 2a to the problem. Remember that this should be technically f of x. Okay, so that's how you find x, and this is how you find the y value. You have to plug it in. Another thing is the difference between vertex and standard. Remember, vertex form is something like this. It's a times x minus h times squared plus, okay, remember the vertex is, of course, hk. This is the vertex form. Nice little things to identify. Another thing is completing the square. Now this is how to solve for quadratic. So usually this has something like x squared given some number b of x equals c, something like that. Not 100%, but it's something like that. The way to find this, remember you have to do b over 2 squared, and then that would give you both x minus some number, or x plus some number, squared equals c plus whatever. So that is completing the square, very simple. Now, the most important one that is a fail-safe when solving for quadratics is a quadratic formula. Now, the quadratic formula, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So remember, if b is negative, so for example, if we are given like 2x squared minus 3x plus 2, this one right here, because it's a negative 3, this one switches to a positive because you're plugging it in, negative times negative, so on and so forth. Alrighty, hopefully that helped you start your cheat sheet. Remember, it is Wednesday and Thursday, Thursday, Friday of next week.